gentlemen. Say hello.
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 My name is Cal Stewart. I'm chairman of the Republican Central Committee here in Calvert, County, Maryland. And our person that's going to run the show tonight is a member of our Central Committee, James McQueen. And I would like to introduce James to you and say, James, it's yours.
All right, so we'll start off with stand, do the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, welcome everybody to tonight's Sheriff's Forum. Welcome the sheriff candidates that are here tonight. This is a forum, if you guys saw the Commissioner's Forum we did about a month ago, it's the same format. This forum is, there's questions asked. It's a question that's going to be answered by everyone, so we don't have to do pointed questions. But it's a discussion that they will each give their timing. So they're going to start with a 3-minute speech. Then each question will each get 2 minutes. And then after that, we'll do a close for 2 minutes. We might do a break in between if we go all the way to 8:30. And if you want to fill out a card, Lenny's in the back. And if you want to write a question down, something comes up while you're here, just go see Lenny, and him and I are organizing these. And tonight, our moderator is John Lee. He came over from St. Mary's to help us out. And he's going to be asking the questions. And I'll be running around with anybody that's got a question. If you don't get on a card, I'll help Lenny out. The other thing, too, is we will be having another forum. We got 2 more forums for the commissioners coming up. We have 1 more forum for the sheriffs already planned. If you haven't seen the dates, we keep that up on the Facebook page and on the website for Calvert County Republican Central Committee. Also, I've discussed with each of the ones here, we're going to actually add another forum with the sheriffs. It will be open discussion forum, where you'll be able to have an open discussion with the sheriffs. Tonight is questions and answers, so there will be another one added. I'll be working on the date and the location, and then that one will be called open discussion, and we'll let people know ahead of time. So we'll get started.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to start with your opening speeches. We'll start with Mr. Cox, and then we'll go straight down the line.
Thank you. First, I would like to say I'm very humbled to be here with everyone tonight and who's viewing. I want to thank God for allowing me to be here, too, as well. I would like to thank everybody in attendance in the Republican Central Committee for putting this event together. I know Jim put a lot of work into that. And being here means that you care. You care about the Sheriff's Office direction. You care about the direction of our community. My name is Ricky Cox, and I'm seeking your vote in the 2022 Sheriff's election. I have 3 beautiful kids, and I'm a husband of a public school teacher. When Sheriff Evans asked me to run in 2018, I knew the timing was right. I started my journey to seek the sheriff's seat 22 years ago in high school. I was the first criminal justice class of Calvert High School to graduate that pathway. And Sheriff Vonzel Ward, he was the sheriff at the current time. He would always come into our classrooms, and he would speak to us and kind of inspire us and kind of give us a detailed message of what the sheriff would look like. He kind of delivered that spark for me, and it's always stuck with me. And I told him I was going to be the sheriff, and that's my dream. And dreams are just dreams without goals set. I set 3 goals for myself: to be a United States Marine. I served 2 combat tours in Iraq, and I tell you that because leading men in combat was a good foundation of leadership, which I still use today. I received 2 meritorious promotions while serving for my hard work and dedication to the Corps. College degree was my second goal. While raising a family, while coaching 2 ball teams, and while running a patrol shift, I stayed up all night, read my papers, used my GI Bill to get my degree because I think this education is very important, especially the position of sheriff to have your education as well. I'm committed to my dreams just like I'm going to be committed to you guys. My third goal was to be at command staff level at the sheriff's office before I ran. I'm at the highest rank there at the sheriff's office. I'm a captain. I've worked hard to get there. I've served in every bureau in the agency, and to include patrol, special operations, investigations, and civil process. And I tell you that because I commanded all these units, and I have good working knowledge of every job in that building, including civilian and sworn deputies. And I think that's very important for the next sheriff because we know the needs now of the community, and we know the needs of the sheriff deputies there at the sheriff's office. During my career, I received numerous awards, including 2 medals for valor for saving 2 people's lives. I haven't worked behind a desk my whole career. I consider myself a boots to the ground type of leader, and that's how I'm going to be as your sheriff. My vision for the sheriff's office and the detention center is comprised of short and long-term goals. First, we must change the culture, the tone, and the climate, and that's my goal for the sheriff's office and the detention center. For the community, ensuring school safety, enhancing drug education and enforcement, making mental health and domestic violence a priority, ensuring fiscal responsibility, and protecting your constitutional and Second Amendment rights. Everybody's running from law enforcement at this current time, but I want to hit it head on, and I want to direct the future path of the sheriff's office, the community, and our school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Contra, 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Ricky, for your service to our country.
Yes, sir.
I'm Craig Contra. How many of you have been affected by drugs? Family, neighbors, friends? Drugs continue to be a major problem here. I want to tell you a little story. When I was on the road, I went to Lusby. I was in Lusby. We went to a house for an overdose. We got there. I met with a female at the front door. And I looked in, and I seen, already?
Yeah, you got to sit down.
Very sorry, Mr. Contra.
And I see this young male. I see this young male laying on the floor, face up. So I run over to him, and I'm looking at him, shaking. You okay? You okay? No response. Then I look at his breathing, see if his chest is rising. Any response? No. I check for a pulse. No pulse. I grab my Narcan, deploy it on him, and within seconds, he wakes up and says, "What the hell are you doing in my house?" That's just one of the things I want to tell about drugs. For so far this year, there's 43 overdoses and 8 deaths. And that's something we can't have. We have to do something about it. We have to do something. We can't just sit there and write tickets. I'm going to get the deputies out of their cars, in the communities, and we're here to do our job to protect you, to keep the peace. The past 2 years, we felt the pain caused by lockdown of schools, churches, and businesses. As your sheriff, I'll take the oath to the Constitution seriously. I will protect your individual liberties and your rights. And I will not, I'll say it again, I will not enforce any unlawful mandates. Vote for Craig Contra on July 19th.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and it's good to see some familiar faces and some new ones here, and I appreciate everyone's time tonight to come out. My name is Dave McDowell, and I'm honored to be here in front of you all tonight. I began my career in law enforcement serving in Calvert County in 1991. In 1987, I stepped over the line from Southern Anne Arundel County, and I bought my first home in North Beach. Calvert County welcomed me, and I have loved every second of being here. I raised my family here. My wife is a native from Calvert County. My son is a native. My son is proudly a deputy sheriff here with this agency, and my father was in law enforcement for 30 years. So it is our family business. I stand here before you tonight, and I just, we are in such a lucky, we're kind of in a juxtaposition. We are fortunate to live where we are,
but when you look at what is around us, when you look at the counties that surround us and you see sometimes triple-digit crime rates, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to sustain that? How are we going to sustain our way of life here? And I say to you, we have to do it as a community, I've been with the Sheriff's Office now for 30 years, the last 16 of which at a senior command level. And I've had a lot of good opportunities like these other gentlemen in here to do a lot of good things. Work in different units, supervise people, get to know the community, and make lasting ties and connections. And that's what makes us special. We do have established relationships in this community that are lasting. We know each other. We see each other in Walmart. Who doesn't go to Walmart and see somebody that they don't know? I mean, it's impossible. So we have to work together as a community. My campaign is about 4 different things. It's about absolutely advancing the war on the drug epidemic that we face as a community. And we can't do it alone. We can't arrest our way out of the drug problem. It's not that simple. We have to educate people. We have to educate parents. We have to educate employers. We have to educate teachers on what to look for. We need to give people the opportunity to get treatment when they need it. When they do get incarcerated, we need to give them services there. So while they're sober and clean, we can get them thinking in the right direction and give them resources for when they get out of jail that they don't slip back into the drug culture. Safety on our roadways. How many people here can do 65 up Route 4 and still get tailgated? It's impossible. You can't do the 65 on Route 4 without getting tailgated. We have to bring order back to our roadways. There are 2 things that take lives in Calvert County. That's crashes and drugs. We can't do that. We cannot continue to have that happen on our roads. Partnerships in the community, absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. The police are the community, and the community are the police. And if we don't work together to deal with our issues, we're not going to be successful. SROs in our schools. I don't think anybody that's in law enforcement, I don't think anybody that's a decent human being does not see the value of having a school resource officer in a school. We have got to take care of our kids in school. Those school resource officers, is that my cue? Okay, that's my cue. School resource officers for sure, absolutely. And the mental health and wellness for my staff. Our law enforcement officers see a lot of bad things out there, guys, and we got to take care of them. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Wilson, you're up, sir.
Last but not least, my name is Mike Wilson, and I'm a Republican candidate seeking to be elected as sheriff here in your county. I've lived in county for 33 years and consider this my home. I've served the citizens of Calvert as a Maryland State Trooper for over 6 years while assigned down here to the Prince Frederick Barrack. I'm vested in this community. I want to keep Calvert County one of the safest counties in Maryland. I have 36 years of law enforcement experience, and I've been a police chief for over 12 years in a state law enforcement agency. I have the experience, the education, the knowledge, the skills to be a competent sheriff and make reasonable, common sense decisions that will positively affect the community. I'm a United States Air Force veteran. I was a military police. I served 23 years with the Maryland State Police before retiring. I'm a chief of the Maryland Capitol Police Department and have been there for over a decade. I'm married with 4 kids and I have 9 grandchildren that mostly all live here in the county. I believe in my heart that I'm the most qualified and the best candidate for this job. I've been in law enforcement for almost 4 decades and have acquired the knowledge and the experience and the skill set to be an effective leader. I will work tirelessly to ensure Calvert County remains the safest county in Maryland. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in organizational leadership from Johns Hopkins University in their police executive leadership program. I'm the only candidate here that is currently a chief of police. I've led a major state law enforcement agency for over a decade. I have 209 employees where I work, and I've successfully managed a $23.5 million budget. I've succeeded the politics of Annapolis, moving this agency forward at many different levels. And by having the ability to effectively communicate with governors, with senators, with delegates, with staff, and with other elected officials. And I'll do the same thing here at the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. I'm the only candidate running for the office of sheriff that's not affiliated with the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. This gives me an outside perspective to be able to look into the Calvert County Sheriff's Office without bias or without favoritism. I believe our citizens want an honest, trustworthy sheriff with integrity that has the ability to be transparent, accountable, and change the status quo leadership in the Calvert County Sheriff's Office. I can do that. I've made no promises to anyone, and I haven't made any inside deals to become the sheriff. This outside perspective will enable me to make fair, good, common sense decisions that will positively affect the community that we serve. I want to ensure that the laws of the state of Maryland are applied equally and fairly to the citizens of Calvert County. I want to ensure that the policies and procedures of the Calvert County Sheriff's Department are also applied equally and fairly to each deputy without favoritism or bias. That includes with promotions, transfers, assignments, administrative investigations. Is that time? I'm done, huh? All right, I can add the rest later.
I don't want to be too rude to you fellas. I want to allow you to finish your statements and such, but when you hear the chime, please tie it in. Fair enough?
Yes, sir. Fair enough.
I did too.
All right, as I'll just remind you guys, I'm going to ask questions as I get them, or I'll ask questions here until I get them. You'll have 2 minutes to respond. We'll start with Mr. Cox. All right, well, everybody gets the answer. We'll start with Mr. Cox and work down the line this time, and then we'll switch it up
Okay.
as for each subsequent question. June 1st, this year, 2022, marked another date that the elected officials of Maryland have further violated, encroached, and infringed on our Maryland's Second Amendment rights. What policies will you enact as elected sheriff to nullify or decline enforcement of these unconstitutional laws?
Well, first, the Constitution, the Maryland State Constitution gives the sheriff the right, which he has to be empowered the sheriff. I think this question came up before about the Second Amendment as well, and I've always been in favor of the Second Amendment rights. And if it violates your Second Amendment right, I will go out there and try to lobby against that, because I feel that you will, as a sheriff, I will protect your constitutional rights and infringement on the federal government, and I do believe in that. I fought for United States Marine Corps in two tours in Iraq, defending our constitutional and our Constitution as a Marine, and a Constitution as as a deputy sheriff as well. And I think I'm the only one up here that can say that. Been in a war zone protecting those rights, and I'm going to do that as your sheriff. What I can do is, listen to the people, because the sheriff under the Constitution works for the people. He doesn't work for the governor. He doesn't work for the commissioners, or he doesn't work for any elected official. And I will listen to my people. I have quarterly meetings with and hear the voices of the people, and I'll get their feedback and whatever they're saying to me, and I'll try to stand up for them and then stand up for the constitutional rights.
That's all?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Contra?
I'm definitely for the Second Amendment. I'm a hunter. I'm a gun collector. If the federal government would come down here and try to take some guns, I'd first ask, why are you taking these guns? Is it because the guy is a convicted felon and we need to get these guns off the road? Or does he have some mental issues? If so, I'm 100% with him. We'll confiscate them. If not, I'm the sheriff. I answer to you, and you have the right to bear arms under the Constitution. So there's no way that we're going to let them come down and take our guns. One of my pillars is a sheriff's advisory board, and on that board's going to be about 12 people. They're going to tell me what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we need to do. But at the end, it comes to you, the people. I'll ask you. I'll work with you. I'm not letting them take my guns. I'm sure not going to let them take your guns. So we will definitely fight against that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
Thank you. I speak in the same vein as the other two gentlemen before me. I was fortunate enough in 2020 to be present when the county commissioners signed the document, the proclamation declaring Calvert County a 2A sanctuary county, which means that Calvert County will support the tenets of the Second Amendment and stand against anyone who would try to come in and take our firearms or regulate our firearms in a way that they're not meant to be regulated. You know, the 21 states across this union now have gone to a no permit necessary to carry status. There's 11 more poised to do the same. I believe that momentum needs to continue, and I know that myself as an NRA member, I am certainly an advocate for that, and I think that more people need to do the same. The Second Amendment was put in place for a reason. If the citizens can't protect themselves, and sometimes unfortunately from their own government, then that's tyranny, and that's what we fought against. We can't have that. I absolutely, if the federal government came here to try to seize guns, and again, 2/3 of the states would have to approve that. I don't see that happening, but I guess you never know. But if they came here to try to do that, I would file for injunctive relief immediately under the 10th Amendment, which is what they'd be violating, and we would stand against that. You know, and like Mr. Contra said, the red flag laws do exist, and they do go into play when somebody is mentally ill and they become a danger or threat to the public because of the firearms they possess, or in domestic violence cases. I'm certain that if you ask the 83,000 people who were killed by gunfire in domestic violence incidents last year, that they would support the red flag laws. But everything has to come in moderation. It can't just be a blanket approach to take everybody's guns. So the long answer to your question is I would absolutely stand against that. And I believe that any law-abiding citizen who can legally carry a firearm should do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
Second Amendment gun rights, a big deal under the Bill of Rights. And it's an issue that keeps coming up with all the active shooters in the schools, in the churches, in the grocery stores, and Walmart. I too believe in the Second Amendment and in gun rights and ownership of guns. I believe in responsible gun ownership. We want to secure, safe schools, and we want gun laws out of the hands of criminals and individuals with mental illness, and without infringing on the rights of abiding citizens of the county and of the state that have every right to own guns. We need to invest in mental health, safer schools, restore family values, restore American values. I thought, let's establish some kind of federal database that includes individuals with mental illness and psychological problems that law enforcement can use to determine gun ownership and who should and shouldn't have a gun. I do believe in thorough background checks. Some of the red flag laws that have been incorporated in the state of Maryland have some merit, not totally, but there's something to be said about domestic abuse and somebody that has a weapon in the house. I believe in a waiting period to finalize background checks for individuals that buy guns or should have the ability to buy guns, and the consequences for those who abuse gun laws. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by one deranged individual with an AR-15 or another weapon. We have a life preservation problem on our hands with all the people that have died and been killed in this country by guns. Most of us Americans stand and solve these issues before others are killed. In the middle, there's a middle approach to take to this. It's not taking the guns away from people, and it's not making more gun laws. There's 20,000 gun laws in this country. I'm done.
You've been jingled.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Sorry.
All right, our next question, we'll start with Mr. Contra. As we've seen over the last 2 years, the federal government has infringed and unlawfully coerced state and local government officials to violate the sovereign rights of the people. As an elected sheriff, you will take an oath to protect the rights of the people. How will you uphold your oath?
I'm bound under the Constitution. We will, any unlawful mandating, we will not do. If they come down here and say COVID-19 comes back or whatever, and you have to have a mask on, hey, that's up to you. That's your right. That's your decision. Same with the shots. I mean, you can't force somebody to put something in their body they don't want. That's up to the individual. That's would be the individual position on what they want to do. Now, there's a lot of times where they say, well, they're in a store and they don't have a mask on, they're asked to leave. Unfortunately, if they don't have a mask on and they're in a store, they're trespassing after they're told to leave. So they have to leave. In a private store, you have to. If the health department comes down and tries to close you down because of somebody in there had COVID at one time, I wouldn't let them. That's the same thing with COVID was around. There was only certain stores that were open. Why is that? Why don't we let them all open? What are they getting out of it? Look how many businesses went out of business because of COVID. You know, if they're open, everybody should be open. And that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
I have to concur for the most part, but it is interesting that Maryland let liquor stores stay open. They didn't impede that business venue. Exactly. You know, wearing a mask is a personal choice. The government's got no business telling people to wear a mask. They can't compel them to do it, and I certainly wouldn't support that. When the COVID-19 first hit, if you will recall, it was the state police who were given the mandate to go around with the health officers and shut down businesses and so on and so forth. And Sheriff Evans and I spoke about that at length, and we said we are not going to support that. We are not going to go and shut down businesses and tell people that they can't have pool parties and so on and so forth. So again, in the same vein as Mr. Contra, I totally agree with what he said. And government just has a tendency to overreach. And again, if it got too bad, I would, again, go back to the 10th Amendment, and I'd go for injunctive relief from the federal courts on what they were doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
It's the sheriff's job to enforce the laws of the state of Maryland and enforce the Constitution of the United States. You know, through COVID-19 in these last several years, all of us have had all these different mandates that have been thrown at us. And I have, in 36 years of law enforcement, I have never, ever in my time seen the controversy regarding the Constitution and the freedom of speech and what you can and can't do. I don't agree with a lot of these orders that have come out. We have the governor's executive orders that come out mandating mask requirements. You have the federal government saying that you're going to lose your job if you don't take this vaccination because of COVID, which, you know, 99% of the people that get it survive. You have executive orders that have closed and were closing businesses down where people lost everything that they had worked for in their entire life. Personally, I don't think that that was constitutional at all. And I would not, if I became sheriff down here, I would not force mask mandates. I would not require deputies to get vaccinations because of COVID-19. I don't think that's our job. I don't think it's constitutional, and I don't think it should be done. And I think a lot of these decisions are going to be reversed as lawsuits are filed by people that have had their constitutional rights violated by some of these orders and directives that have come out. I finished early. I'm good. I get extra time.
I guess I agree with everybody up here with this statement, but I'm going to go with the Maryland Sheriff's Association. It's a group of sheriffs throughout the whole state of Maryland, and we will lead a united front there. And if we get on the same page and we can push this issue and we all get behind each other, if nobody will, then I'll take it from the front and lead it. Again, the Constitution, it provides that in the 10th Amendment reserved back to the state, as Colonel McDowell said. And again, the sheriff, gets his power from the Constitution. He works for the people. I'll say it again. We have a lot of constitutional training in the academy, but I don't think we get the follow-up there. And I think that I'll ensure the deputies of the county will receive the most up-to-date training and all areas related to law enforcement, and that's including infringing on your rights in law enforcement, as well as, it goes to constitutional rights. I believe training and knowledge is a key to many problems we encounter in our profession. I think that we don't train enough. If we fail to train, we train to fail, and I think we need to do that. The Sheriff's Office continually runs out of money for training. Right now, we're told that we can't train until July of any paid training, so I think that we need to go back and add more training to the budget. So these trainings are happening and they're monitored, and so the deputies are making the right calls and not violating the rights of the citizens and protecting their constitutional rights. And that's how I feel about that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question, we'll start with Mr. McDowell. What would you do differently from Sheriff Evans, and why?
You're going to give me 2 minutes to answer that?
This one is from the crowd, so yes, try to keep this tight as you can, sir.
So an enumerated list might be tough. So my experience for the last 10 years as the assistant sheriff gives me the wisdom to know how to enhance the things we do well and the fortitude to implement the things that we must do better. We've done a good job over the last decade of engaging the community, but good isn't good enough. And like I said in my opening remarks, the community needs to have much more inclusion with what the Sheriff's Office does. So that's one of the main things I would do. I would have a meaningful discussion with my staff and ask them what they want to see, what they expect from the sheriff. I would bring stability. I don't want to say stability. I would bring a consistent and fair promotion, transfer, internal business practice to the Sheriff's Office. I too have a master's degree from the Johns Hopkins University. It's in management science. And I would apply a lot of the principles that I learned in that program because the Sheriff's Office is a business. I would make sure that there was no, we can't set something in motion and say this is what you have to do to achieve this and then mid-game change it. And those are some of the things that unfortunately have happened under Sheriff Evans' administration. Those are some things that I would change. Again, more involvement with the community. The community needs to ask questions and we need to answer them. And sometimes we need to get out ahead of it and just say, hey, this is what happened and this is how it goes. I do have to take I do have to say one thing though, Ricky. No training at all has been denied this year whatsoever. The training budget is depleted because I don't deny training, but I do have other funding sources so people can get the training they want. So if there's something you want to go to, brother, just let me know. That's the end of my answer on that.
What was the question again?
What would you do
What would I
different?
do different? No, I'm just, accountability. Accountability, I'd be more accountable. I would lead more by example. I would enforce laws fairly and equally. I would get rid of the favoritism and bias in the Sheriff's Department as it relates to promotions and transfers and some of the decisions that are being made down there. Look, I think people want to change in the Sheriff's Department down here. I think people want something different. I think they want somebody from the outside that is experienced and that is skilled and that has the ability to lead the department in a very positive direction and build trust back into the community and build legitimacy in the community between the sheriff, the deputies, and the community in which we serve. And I would lead by more of a guardian standpoint rather than an enforcer standpoint in the Sheriff's Department. I think being transparent and being fair and making rational, common sense decisions that affect everybody the same way and being consistent is a big deal, especially as it relates to people and leadership. Folks want to be treated fairly and they want to be treated equally, whether it's a deputy or whether it's the citizen on the street. So given the opportunity, my leadership in that Sheriff's Department will be totally different than what's there now. There's no doubt about that. My time over.
Thank you.
I have to give Sheriff Evans credit. I mean, he did 20 years as a sheriff and did it for a long time and did a lot of good things for our community as well. Things I would change, I want to get away from the stat game. A lot of deputies are evaluated on the stat numbers, and I think that takes away from the teamwork that a deputy comes out there. I want to bring back the teamwork aspect of it and get rid of the individual. And I want to develop a system that better reflects actual police work, like getting back in our communities and developing those relationships and building our relations with our community leaders as well. I just want to allow the supervisor to evaluate his employees. That's the way the Marine Corps taught me. That's the way I was brought up, and that's the way we should happen. A number shouldn't evaluate a deputy's production. Like I said this in the American Legion one. I mean, I have Pete Ark out there. He worked for me for a very long time. Everybody in Dunkirk knew that guy's number and knew his name. That's police work, I believe, right? And they would call 911 before they call him. I would institute a training program. We need training. We have a lot of good instructors. I've been an instructor since 2005 at the Sheriff's Office, and bring other agencies in to train as well. And we should always be training. That's a key point of mine. And I have the email for that we can't train until July. So, healthcare program. I want to institute a healthcare program to the Sheriff's Office, which will include to monitor the health and nutrition of the Sheriff's Office. And maybe we can catch on something that a deputy has or whatnot, and invest a lot of money. We've invested a lot of money into our deputies. It's time to invest in them. Mental health is a big issue of mine too as well. I want to get that mental health. I've been looking at a lot of different programs through the universities. It's grant funded, so we can get the help that the deputies need. It also includes substance abuse as well in there as well, and also marriage counseling, because we deal with a lot of divorces at our Sheriff's Office, and I think they have an avenue where they can go and get that help that they need without asking. And thank you.
Mr. Contra?
Integrity, honest, transparent, ethics, trust. We lost it. We lost it at the Sheriff's Office. We have lost it. How do we get it back is the question. And it's part of it's community policing. Getting the guys in the neighborhoods, getting them out of the cars, talking to people, trying to get that trust back. Shopping centers, getting out of the car, talking to the owners, the businesses. Like Ricky said, Pete Arch, he's up Dunkirk. Everybody knows him. Everybody trusts him. We have lost the trust of the people. Just like the accident, I hate to bring it up, on Dares Beach Road. We lost honesty, transparent. We lost a lot on that. And why? Because we're not transparent. Let's tell the truth. Let's say what happened. That's what we need to do. Mental health. You know, we have a program at the office that if somebody needs some help, there's a couple deputies trained for that. But who wants to talk to a deputy? Ronnie and I has talked to a psychiatrist, which we're going to get her on board. And if somebody needs help, we're just going to let them go. Go get help. Call this number, and you go do it. You don't have to tell nobody else. Confidential. You go do that. Trying to talk to your peers about your wife's problem, your alcohol problem. You know, we had people in the department that had problems, and the supervisors never said anything. So this way, these people can reach out and get the help they need. I think also promotions. One of the reasons I didn't get promoted after sergeant is I ran against my sheriff. And there you have to go in front of Dave McDowell and the sheriff, and they make the decision on who they're going to promote. So I gave up going. Thank you.
Who went first last time? Okay.
I did.
Sorry. All right, next question, we'll start with Mr. Wilson. What is your experience handling a budget? If any, what would you do to change the Calvert County Sheriff's Office budget?
Well, like I said, I've been the chief of the Maryland Capitol Police for 12 years. I've handled I've handled a budget, a $23.5 million budget. There's a lot to handling a budget and where the money goes. You know, where, who's spending what. You know, with us, with police departments, probably 94% of the budget is spent on employees and retirements and stuff like that. But the remaining part of that money, the sheriff has to decide where that money goes and what's best for the county, what's best for the department. It goes to equipment, it goes to cars, it goes to fuel, it goes to all kinds of different programs. In the sheriff's department down here, a lot of the funding comes from MOU agreements with the townships, with Exelon down there. So you're kind of obligated with where that money goes, and you can't just move money around where you want. But I think that I would be more transparent with the budget in the sheriff's department. You know, there's nothing to hide. Put it out there. Put the budget out to the people and show them exactly where the money's going. Show them what's being spent. Show them where the money is being spent. That gives you the ability to go to the commissioners later on down the road with very honest transparency, saying, look, this is where the money's being spent, and this is what we need. This is where we need money. This is where we need to implement money into the budget. So, you know, I've like I said, I've dealt successfully with the budget for almost 12 years now, and there's a lot to it. And it takes a lot of communication skills working with commissioners to ratify the budget for the sheriff's department, I'm sure.
Mr. Cox?
The budget, I think our budget here is currently considered, I consider it organized chaos in my opinion. At the end of the year, we figure out that we have extra money, we buy clothing bags. I just think that we need to do it. We need to build it from the ground up. I've operated my budgets in all of my bureaus, so I know what goes on in there. So investigations, special operations. Now I'm currently assigned to the LNG Dominion project, which is a $2 million budget, which I oversee as well as a commander. So I have experience in budget. My assistant sheriff, Dave Payne, he's currently working for the federal government, and he is. He has a $4 million budget himself. So we have a lot of knowledge and experience to bring to the table with balancing a budget as well, and putting the money in the right spots. I think is going to be very important. Like inflating costs, that we have a spreadsheet that we put, a new deputy gets hired, and we put on there, we have shotguns that we paid $900 for, which we never have even bought shotgun in years. So where does that money go? I mean, we need to figure that out. Operating in the bidding process within the budget, I'm going to allow every business out there in the community to bid on a project there at the sheriff's office. I think a lot of that is closed due to favoritism with other businesses out there in Calvert County, so I'm going to change that as well. The safety for schools, that's our speed cameras in our school systems, you see them driving by schools there. That's the speed cameras there. Are they really going to school safety? We really got to look at that, and which I don't think they are as well. So I really would like that money there to be allocated for that, and I think, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Calvert?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I handled one budget, $500,000 for the child support grant. I really didn't do much more than that, but we have a budget analyst there now. And we can put what we need, not what we want. First, we got to put what we need to get by each year. There's, like Ricky said, there's a company now wrapping our vehicles, and it don't go out to bid. They wrap it, and it don't go out to bid. So there's a lot of favoritism going on that we definitely need to change. The budget, like I say, we'll do everything we can to keep it low. We'll have a budget analyst. They'll help us get along. And I haven't handled more than a $500,000 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the last 10 years, I have managed the sheriff's office budget. It's currently at $31 million. It has multiple moving parts, it has multiple grants, and it has, yes, contracts with the town of Chesapeake Beach and North Beach. It has a contract with Dominion LNG, and basically they pay for police services in those two areas. The budget has multiple line items in it. The budget is public. You can go on the county's website at any time and you can see the budget. The budget hearings that you prepare the budget with are public. They're televised on the Commissioner's channel. There is no backroom deals with the budget at all, period. Contracts for services are typically on a 5-year renewal, sometime a 3-time renewal, although the Sheriff's Office was granted 3 years ago by the county government what they call budget autonomy, because the Sheriff's Office is really almost its own corporation. So budget autonomy gives the sheriff the ability to use services that are reliable, bona fide, and tested and proven if he chooses to do so. If there's a problem, then he can put something out for bid. It's not to show favoritism to any particular business, but some think that. Anyway, the budget is a very complex process. This year, I was very fortunate to get the county to give me a fiscal manager who came from the Office of Finance and Budget. See, the arrangement between the county and the sheriff's office is contentious, ladies and gentlemen, because the county has to pay for the sheriff, but they can't control what he does because he's elected by the people. So the county tries to exude their authority over the sheriff through the budget process. That's why we fought for and attained budget autonomy. I'm currently working now, and when I become the sheriff, we will have our own funding formula like the Board of Education has. So we will go to the commissioners, we will ask for a sum of money, they will give it to us, and we will go on our way, and we will spend it as we see fit. You know, our deputies went for years with inadequate vehicles. That hasn't been the case in the last 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Our next question, we're going to start back with Mr. Cox. Go back down the
Sir.
line as we did with the first. Who controls the school resource officers, and what restrictions are you willing to fight against? How will you stop the violence outside and inside the schools? How will you protect our schools no matter bad writing? I'm thinking this is no matter what the superintendent of school or the Board of Education rules. Would you like me to redo that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So who controls our school resource officers, and what restrictions will you be willing to fight against? How will you stop the violence inside and outside the schools? How will you protect the schools no matter what is ruled by the superintendent or Board of Ed?
Well, ultimately, the school resource officers work for the sheriff. They're currently assigned under the Criminal Investigations Bureau commander, which they served under me when I was a lieutenant when I served under there. But they do work for the sheriff, and that leads me to my key point. And the school safety is very important to me because the youth. I coach multiple ball teams, and the event that just happened in Texas, you know, it really hurt. It hurt for a while, and it still hurts today. And we have to protect our schools. We were ordered to, you know, go to the elementary schools 2 days after that happened, and then you don't see any more police officers there riding around the parking lots, which I try to do if I'm passing by one myself, and I think that's very important. And I think the presence, there needs to be a deputy in every school, including elementary level, and I will fight every day until that happens. To speaking on the other part of the question, we have a superintendent that's just got appointed as well, right? So we have to get the buy-in from him. He's new at that position, and I'm going to lay out my plan, what I want to do for the schools for him, and hopefully we can get the buy-in from him, and we get the buy-in to protect our students. And my wife's a school teacher, so this hits home with me because I have two children into the public school systems, and my wife teaches there. So I think school safety is very important. And I want to say I think I show, you know, my record shows that I believe in the children. They're my priority. I want to have deputies to make regular visits there at every school, like I said, and I want to conduct active shooter drills because I went to my wife's school today, and they did a fire drill. And, you know, me being an active shooter instructor, I used to do it in 2007, but we stopped it. So we need to train for that. We need to train for when it happens. The last person somebody died in a fire at a school was 1958. So we need to do these drills. We need to get in the schools, and we need to get the buy-in from the school board. For me as the sheriff to allow to do that, and I will fight for our children every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Contra?
Well, of course, the sheriff has control of the deputies in the school. Back in 2014, I ran, and my big goal was to get the speed cameras, don't get mad at me now, out there. And that money was supposed to, what I wanted to use it for more school resource, to take some of the pain off of the citizens. Well, but some were gonna get the pain for the tickets, but I've been preaching that since 2014. Sheriff Evans made it happen, and I'm not sure, money goes into a fund, but everybody gets a piece of it. Don't go right to the school. I've been preaching for the last 8 years, I want to put a deputy in every school. I've been preaching about active shooting. You have a fire drill one day, let's have an active shooting drill. Let the kids be in there. Let them hear the noise. Let them feel what's actually going on, but, instead of saying, oh, okay, active shooter, you go in the corner, let them hear that gunshots. Let them hear that screaming. Let them feel what it really is gonna be and how it's gonna be. That I've been pushing hard. The Board of Education, that's the battle. Trying to get it over them. When I was back in narcotics, we wanted to do locker checks with the dogs and so forth, but we had to tell the Board of Education 3 or 4 days prior. And somebody talks, next time we go there ain't nothing there. Well, we told you. Well, we shouldn't have told you. We should be able to go on there and just send the dogs through. We can't bother them while they're in school, but if they're in the classroom and they're teaching, we can run a dog back and forth. But it's the idea of getting past the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
School safety is absolutely paramount to anybody up here at this table. There's nobody up here that's not a priority for. So yes, we currently have deputies in every high school and middle school, and we have deputies that go to the elementary schools and the 4 private schools as time permits. It's not acceptable. We do need a deputy in every school. To do that would be about $2.3 million, which I'm eager to go to work after November to try to get that money set up so we can get those deputies added. What I will do in the interim is we can take deputies who are not, so to be a school resource officer, you have to go through training, state mandated training, and get your SRO certification. You can get that certification without being an SRO. So actually, starting next week, I'm exploring the option of having deputies get that training now so we can allocate them to a school for a particular day to put more coverage there. After the event in Texas occurred, yes, we put deputies at schools for 2 days to put the fears of the parents and the anxiety for the kids at ease, because these kids see this, they know what's going on, and it's got to be terrifying for them. That's the last thing any of us want. Since then, though, I mandated that a deputy sheriff each day go to each school in the county and at least check in with the office, just to check in, just to say, I'm here, are there any problems? Pull into the parking lot and just let them know. It's a Band-Aid, all right? I'm not trying to fool anybody. It's a Band-Aid, but it's something. We simply don't have the staffing, but that's not a good enough answer. That's not a good enough answer. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, ladies and gentlemen, absolute certainty, if there is a school shooting in this county, we will not hesitate to enter that building. That will not happen here. You have my word. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
Keeping our children safe in schools is paramount to every person and every individual in this country, in the state, everywhere. There should be a deputy in every school. There absolutely should be a deputy in every school down here in this county. But the problem is money and budget. To do that effectively costs a fair amount of money. That's something that the taxpayers are going to have to be willing to pay, and the commissioners will have to be be willing to work with. There's a lot of things that we could do, though, in the interim, until a budget's passed to maybe give us more deputies down here that could be school resource officers. Active shooter drills are a very important thing in school systems. Educating the teachers and the citizens on active shooter and what to do is of paramount. Ensure proper security at these schools and lockdowns. I mean, these schools should be locked down, and there's no way anybody should be able to access or get into any of these buildings unless they're buzzed in by somebody that knows who they are and why they're there. So training is a paramount important thing that could be done that wouldn't cost so much in the interim. Look what happened in Montgomery County when they pulled school resources officers out of schools. I mean, they took them completely out, got rid of every one of them. The next thing you know, there's stabbings in the school and things happening in schools that are just absurd and ridiculous. So within a short period of time, they're back in the schools. So if you go to the commissioners and you go to the Board of Education and you go to the people in this county, you can certainly communicate and advocate for the funding to put school resource officers in every school down here in this county. I think that's one thing that you wouldn't get a whole lot of pushback from anybody about. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, our next question will start with Mr. Contra. Do you agree with parents being referred to as domestic terrorists and targeted because they are fighting to protect their kids?
No, absolutely not. The stuff they're teaching in school now is unbelievable. About the pizza, about the tree. I mean, back in my time, you learned that at home. Your parents taught you that. You know, your parents, the parents of the kids are in there fighting for their kids. They want right for them. A lot of people I know got fed up with the Board of Education, and they take their kids out and homeschool them. And that shouldn't be. The teacher should give the parents what they're going to teach, how they're going to teach, and let the parents approve it. We need to get back to reading, writing, arithmetic is what we need to get back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
I'm not too hip with the pizza and the tree thing. I can't explain it.
You want me to explain it?
We'll do it later. I don't want to cut into my time. Listen, as a conservative Republican my entire life, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's the parents' job to teach their kids about their sexuality and who they are and how they identify. And I, too, am incensed about the curriculum that has been brought to light actually due to COVID. Parents actually got a chance to see what their kids were being taught. So I guess if there's anything good that came out of COVID, maybe it's that. But absolutely not, and in no way should a parent be labeled a domestic terrorist for taking their kid out of school or for having the audacity to argue with the Board of Education. I do believe that they are out of control, and I believe that they have an agenda and they're trying to press forward with it, and it does not have the best interests of our children at heart. It doesn't. And it's, you know, as a community, we need to rally together and take it to the polls like you're doing here tonight. Take it to the polls and put some reasonable, smart, sensible people who are in their right mind on that Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
Of course, no, I don't agree with that at all. I think that there, as a result of COVID and things that are going on in this country, there's a whole lot of unconstitutional issues and things that are occurring and that are going on that the people of this country don't agree with, and certainly that's one of them. The Board of Education makes decisions about schools and about laws that abide schools, and you know, vote for what you think, vote for what you feel, put people in these offices that you can elect and put in these offices that have conservative, Republican attitudes and beliefs and thought processes, and do common sense decisions, make common sense decisions that are right for everybody, that are right for the school, that are right for the students in the school, that are right for the teachers, and that are right for everybody. But that's just ridiculous. I mean, it parallels with some of the other things that are going on in this country right now as it relates to Constitution and our freedoms and our rights as Americans in this country.
Thank you. Mr. Cox?
Thank you. Growing up here in Calvert County, went through elementary, grew up here, lived on a tobacco farm, and I never thought or imagined my mom be called a domestic terrorist. And was that really said to them?
That was something, the point was something that came across the media and through social media. I can't remember what the source was, but yes, it actually
Okay.
happened.
As you get, I've been watching the school board meetings, and you can see the parents are really concerned at this point, infringing on their rights or couldn't get into the building. And I think they were asked to leave because they wouldn't wear a mask. And I think that limited to 10 parents to speak at one time. And I think that's unacceptable. The school board there is an elected board, so they should hear the people. I don't care if it's 50 that wants to speak that night. You stay there till you hear the last parent there. And calling domestic terrorists is unacceptable. But again, I'm going to go back to having a new superintendent. He was hired. He's going to be brought here. Me as the sheriff, I want to bring him in and give him my ideas, and hopefully we can work together to find real solutions to fix the issues that we're facing today on the school board, in our schools, and even the violence as well. As the sheriff, if we get that phone call, and I had before, that a school, a threat to the school, we're going to shoot it up, or they're going to bring a weapon to the school, which has happened multiple times this year and nothing's done. That kid still remains in the school. Me as the sheriff, if I know that, we have to follow up on that, because now I know. Now we have to step in and investigate that if it's true or not. But just ending on this point, the elections are coming up, and we have some good candidates out there, and research them and do your education, and we can put some good people in there to make some really good decisions with our school board and our direction. And me as the sheriff, I want to build those relationships with the superintendent and the school board so we can make educated decisions with our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Our next question will begin with Mr. McDowell. Do you think the Police Accountability Board is a good thing for the county? Why or why not?
Okay. So I believe the Police Accountability Board is going to realize the same thing that people realized when the body camera wave hit, okay? So the ACLU and some other organizations, PERF, they believed that body cameras were going to expose the systemic, profession-wide corruption and brutality of law enforcement in the United States. It did not happen. It did not show that. It showed that 99% of law enforcement officers in this country do the right thing, and that 99% in this country do not care for that 1% who don't. I believe the Police Accountability Board will see the same thing when they start to get the complaints and they see the complaints. And I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to proudly say I watch a lot of body camera video. I see a lot of discipline that comes through and a lot of the complaints that come through. I can tell you without a doubt that 100% of the men and women in the Calvert County Sheriff's Office do the right thing. And if they do get complaints, it is addressed. And the Police Accountability Board will see that they're not going to be as busy as people think they are. And in that 1% when they do have to take action, I think it's important that the community has some buy-in on that. I do. I think the community has the right, as the people that we serve, to have some say-so when a police officer does make a mistake and discipline is necessary to occur. So I'm eager to see how it's going to pan out. It's law. It's something that we have to accept. I'm not opposed to it because, again, my money's on the men and women of the Calvert County Sheriff's Office and the citizens of Calvert County who trust them to move forward. That's my reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
It's a loaded question. I think that, look, House Bill 670 was passed last year, 2021, the Maryland Police Accountability Act. The legislatures passed this bill into law, and they passed it very quickly. There was a lot of opposition that was given to that bill from chiefs of departments, from sheriffs, from other law enforcement agencies about some of the things that they were trying to implement into that law. the police accountability bill and the administrative charging committee were two of the things that came out of this bill, because they were looking, I guess they didn't believe that law enforcement could hold themselves responsible for administrative investigations or complaints that came into the department. There's some good and bad things about the police accountability bill. You know, I don't have any issue or problem with civilians, a couple of civilians being on the board, and some of the other people that are selected to be on this police accountability board, and there's law enforcement on this board as well. I think most of the police officers are demonized right now in this country, and the defunding of the police that's going on in this country, and all these things that they have designed to hold police officers accountable. None of this stuff's in place yet. This law goes into effect July 1st. July 1st. Calvert County is probably one of the few counties that has actually had public hearing boards and meetings where they have actually put an MOU together to try to meet this mandate that the legislature's passed. But there are more counties in the state of Maryland having started with this process. And what's bad about this is they've taken the LEOBR away from police and from sheriffs and from chiefs of departments and put it in the hands of something that's not even formed yet. These boards aren't even formed yet. They don't even know who's going to go on them. They don't know who's going to fund them. There was no funding mandate when they passed this thing through. So there's a lot of issues and problems with this. And I don't think that it's going to give citizens the results that they're looking for as far as holding police officers accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Cox?
The police advisory boards, it's what Mr. Wilson said. What's the scary point is that this board has to be set by July 1st. And what's scary is that we have the people's names, but we have no training yet from the Maryland Training Commission, which they're supposed to get before July 1st. I spoke to a lot of people, and we do have some good people that applied, but the waiting game now of what this board's going to look like and the people that's going to be on it is very unsettling for a deputy out there trying to do his job. And I can only imagine the first person that's going to have to go through the board. But with that said, I've always been in favor of some kind of citizens advisory board. Myself and Dave Payne, when we worked in patrol, we even developed that and we laid it out what it was going to look like before this board was even put together or became law as well. There again, no sheriff out there. I think 2 sheriffs out there fought against it because it is taking power away from the sheriff, and he should be able to dictate how his deputies out there are disciplined. Correct? And I think that is very important. I attended every public hearing board, and which was unsettling as well. They allowed people to speak that did not even live here in Calvert County, and one of the requirements to be on the board was you had to be a Calvert County resident. And I don't think that people living in PG County should be shaping or dictating what our board looks like. But me as the sheriff, I'm going to it's going to be a big responsibility, and I plan to work with them in a productive manner as possible. I think they're going to have some growing pains, and there's going to be some work to really hit the ground running with that. And I'll offer as much training and communication with the board to ensure that we're making the most informed decisions, disciplining our deputies. So I plan to work with them. They're there, and let's start this relationship on the right foot.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Contra?
Well, we don't have no choice. We have to do it. We have no choice. And I kind of feel both ways a little bit. One way is the accountability board has no idea what we do. What I'd like to do, if I was sheriff, I'd take them through a civilian police academy. Let them know the split-minute decisions we have to make. Let them know what the law is. Let them do some ride-alongs. Let them see what we do out there. I think that's one of the biggest things. And we got to be transparent with the public. So with the board, it's going to be kind of transparent. But one thing I disagree with is they can go through our personnel files. And I don't want them to know who my wife is. I don't want them to know who the narcotic guys' wives are, where they live. That's personal information. Now, if they just say, is there anything in the file that he had a brutality charge before? Okay, pull that. But I don't want them to go through our files. I think, would you want them to go through your files at work? No. It's none of their business. It's not a business how many kids you got, where you live, and so forth. So we have no choice. We got to deal with it. I'll work with them. We'll do the best we can with them, and hopefully we can train them. They have an idea of what we do. We have the cameras now, so there's not much, you know, they look at the camera and half the times the complaint is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Next question, we will start with Mr. Wilson. If elected sheriff, what is the first policy change you would initiate?
Dave's up.
Oh, was it Dave?
Is it me?
Yeah.
Did I get that wrong?
Damn if I remember.
Yeah.
Is it Dave? Okay, well, Mr. McDowell, then we'll start with you.
Can we restart the timer?
We can restart the timer. We wouldn't be human if we didn't have a little mess up, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Is it me?
It is actually Wilson.
I'll go.
Wilson?
That's what okay.
All right, then don't restart the timer.
Guys.
Policy change.
Do you want me to
First policy change.
do you want me to repeat?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So, you know, that question for me is when I take over, when I took over the department where I'm at, the Maryland Capitol Police, I took the time to go into the department and look at what's going on inside the department, talk to the officers inside the department, and didn't make any knee-jerk decisions right away. So, I can't answer what the first thing that I would do as far as changing policies in the Calvert County Sheriff's Department, because I wouldn't make a knee-jerk decision and make a wrong decision changing something right off the bat because you're a new sheriff and somebody wants you to change a policy. I would sit back and take a look at the whole department, look at the people that are in the department, talk to the senior leadership in the department, find out what's working, find out what's not working, and then work together on how to fix it, how to fix the issue. That's not something you just walk into and change right away, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Cox?
Policy change, what I would change there at the sheriff's office would be right from the ground level would be our hiring process. Right now, we'll have a PT test, which I've been, evaluating for the last, 10 years. And we get a group of folks out there, and we do the PT test. We go do the test, then we go and do the oral boards, and then we have a background check. And the folks that are there don't even get a call back, and then we'll hire somebody that doesn't even that didn't even go through the process. I mean, that's not fair. It's not equitable, and it's not fair to people that come out there and try out for the test. So to fix that, what I would do, I want to develop our own HR department. Right now, we don't currently have an HR department in the sheriff's office, and I know a lot of sheriff's offices do have an HR department. They would be in charge of hiring, and they would administer the test. They would administer the background checks. They would administer everything involved in that, and then that way we hire high qualified people. And me as the sheriff, I don't have any say in that unless I have to step in. And the list is going to be the list. If the guy is number one, he came out and do the best because I want to hire the best people available to give you the best service here in Calvert County for the next 25 years because we do have a 25-year retirement. So we might as well pick the best qualified candidate because we're going to be stuck, we'll have them for 25 years. So, so I would institute that hiring process right from the beginning because right now, we had 11 people try out. When I started here, we had 200 plus people trying out. So this job is not really favorable to the younger crowd or younger generation right now. So we got to make it, very selective in who we pick as well. So that hiring process is one policy I'll change.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Thank
Mr. Contra?
I agree with Mr. Wilson here. My second, Ronnie Naughton, and I spoke. What we're going to do, we're not going in there changing everything. What we want to do is get in there. We want to talk to the commanders. Then we want to go talk to the supervisors. Then we want to talk to the rank and file. And then we'll get together with the commanders and make some decisions. You just don't want to run right in there and make decisions that you're not sure of. So the best thing is to talk to them, figure out where you need the manpower, what are the issues, and then come up with a plan and then execute the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
So because I now, because I'm in the office now, I do routinely talk to the people that work there. And to go to fairness, as Mr. Cox said in his remarks, the policy that I would change immediately is what we call the rule of 5. So when you have a promotional process, young men and women put their lives on hold for sometimes up to 6 months to study and prepare to be tested for the next rank. And it really is a change in your lifestyle. And what the rule of 5 is it gives the sheriff the latitude to pick anywhere from 1 to 5 on the list. So if you come out number 1, but you're not who is the desired candidate, then you can go down to number 2, 3, or 4, or 5. I don't believe in that concept. I believe that if you come out number 1 on the promotional list, you get the job. You're on a probationary period, so if you're not up to the job, if you don't meet the standards or you don't adapt to it, you're probationary. The promotion, you go back to your previous rank, and then the next person on the list, if the list is still good at that time, will get the position. I just think that it's not a fair policy, and it causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of disheartening. It disheartens a lot of people who, like I said, they put a lot of time and effort into it, and just to get passed over because somebody else, for whatever reason, is chosen. So that is the policy that I would change. One of the first things that I would change when I become the sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Our next question, we'll start back with Mr. Cox. Make sure there's no rebuttals. Very good. All right. Explain what are the most important challenges for the sheriff's office.
I'm gonna start right where I left off. I think that, like I just said, the hiring good qualified people is going to be a very, very important role here, because now we just got our pay fixed, so we were the lowest paid sheriff's office in Tri-County area at least. But we still got to work on that pay issue because other jurisdictions around us just got another pay raise as well, and they get certain things like on-call pay, tech pay for their special training that they have. So they put the time in, they put the effort in, and they get paid for that every day. Most SWAT teams out there, they get a 12% bump in their pay just for the qualifications and the danger that you're put in each and every day you step through that door on a search warrant, and I think that's very important. To fix the hiring good qualified people, what I want to do, I want to implement a cadet program. I know we've tried this multiple times, but it's gotten shut down by the commissioners. But talking to the high school students multiple times throughout the year and throughout my career, we have good kids there. And a lot of them leave here and they go to other areas and work because they were paid higher. But that cadet program, we can bring them here, we can foster them, we can cultivate them good people, because we do have good kids here. And if we do that, they get a college education, they get started the retirement as well. And once they do that, I think we can take the good qualified people that I see in schools, and I help coach football there with Coach Sneed at Calvert High School as well. We can bring those kids in and make them good qualified deputies and keep them here. Pipeline program at the detention center. We have a lot of good correctional deputies down there as well. What I want to do is have a pipeline program and give them the training and the needs to come over, and if they want to, and give them that training so when they come, they can be a good qualified deputy as well. And I'll have HR handle it as well. And again, number 2 is our opioid epidemic too. The numbers have shown. I mean, we just lost. Last year we had 123 overdoses, 103 non-fatal, and 20 fatal. That's way too many. That hiring and the opioid epidemics are going to be my main 2 priorities to fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Contra?
The biggest thing I think it's going to be hard for the sheriff's office to get the integrity, the honesty, the transparency, the ethic, and the trust back with the people. I think that's going to be really hard, but I think we could do it through community policing. I really do. Getting back to the hiring, We want to have 2 deputies do the background investigations, do all the testing. There's a lot of times I remember when they used to give me a background, you got 7 days to get it done. And I'm like, what? Do your job and get it done in 7 days. Just make some phone calls. No, that's why we got what we got today. We're gonna do it right. We're gonna go out to the neighbors, we're gonna go out to their work, and we're gonna talk to them. They put names on there to call for references. Of course they're gonna tell you, yeah, he's the best man for the job. But what's his neighbor say about it? What's his coworker say about it? So we definitely wanna get that. Down to jail, we definitely are gonna do the same thing with the sheriff's office down to jail. The jail, we need a new jail. That jail was built in the 70s. I'm gonna fight with the commissioners to get a new jail for us. We need a pipeline toward them, just like Ricky says. They don't have no one to vent to. And I made it, and I told them, I will be down at jail twice a month. I will walk through that jail. I will talk to the supervisors. I will talk to the rank and file and ask them what the problems are. I'm not gonna go to the major down there. I'm gonna go to them. I think that's what we need. I think that's what we lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
Biggest challenges we face today? That's the question. First, I do have to take issue with one thing. What we got right now is pretty damn good, Craig. We have
What, the jail?
No. You talk about the background. What we have now is a pretty damn good bunch of men and women out there laying it down every day.
We do. We do.
One of the biggest challenges I see on the horizon for our law enforcement personnel is, again, the new reform bills passed in Bill 670. Deputies are afraid to do their jobs. They're afraid that if they take a life to save their own life or someone else's, that they're not going to get a fair shake and that they're going to end up in jail for doing it. Real life. I mean, it's you know, my son is a deputy sheriff, and he gets in a chase one night with a vehicle that's got its headlights out. It's dark out, can't see who's driving it. Ultimately, the vehicle is eventually, he calls off the chase because it's too dangerous. And in his mind, while he's trying to make this decision on what he's going to do, the only thing he's thinking about is if this vehicle crashes, they're going to put me in jail for it. Turned out to be a 15 and 13-year-old, 2 kids that stole the car out of Anne Arundel County. Deputies, the Maryland General Assembly is working very hard to make criminal behavior non-criminal, or you know, that's the biggest challenge I think our deputies are facing is, are they going to go to jail for doing their jobs? That's where leadership comes in. That's where I, as the next sheriff, will make sure our deputies know the laws, that we have policies in place that protect them from any negative consequence from those laws, and that we have practices in place, and yes, training and education for our people. We can't have our deputies out there being afraid to do their job, because that 1 second of hesitation, ladies and gentlemen, could cost them their life. And that's what I think their biggest challenge is.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
Hiring deputies, retention of deputies in this county is going to be a huge challenge for the next sheriff because of many things that you've just heard, plus pay parity issues within the county. The next several years is going to bring many challenges to the next sheriff down here. I mean, count the ways. Look what's going on in our society. We have opioid epidemic going on right now. We have budget cuts and defunding the police that's happening now. We have staffing issues and challenges like I just mentioned. Meeting new mandates and requirements for the new police reform bill that is just passed. That's going to be a huge challenge for the whole department, the leadership of the department and the officers of the department. Social unrest. Look at the rise in violent crime and homicides that are going around our surrounding areas. Increased drug violence in the counties, cyber attacks, public anxiety about crime, constitutional issues that are going on, the vaccinations, the mask mandates, the closing businesses. You could go on and on and on about the challenges that are going to be in front of the next sheriff of this county. The only thing that I can tell you about that is the next sheriff that you elect here in this county has to have the professionalism, the mindset, the skill, and the knowledge to be able to lead a department down here into the right direction. And it's going to be a huge challenge for whoever takes this job on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, our next question will start with Mr. Contra. Give an example how you have used your position as a leader to create positive change as the police.
Well, I like to get back to the one question Dave asked, came back with me, and he says, we do hire good people. We do. We do hire good people, but we hire people that have alcohol problems. We hire people that have DWIs, which we shouldn't be hiring. Getting back to a positive change, I started the Warrant Division. In 1997, Sheriff Ward asked me to start the Warrant Division, which I did, which it grew to about 9 people right now. We started the child support. We had the child support grant of $500,000. We were recognized in the state of Maryland for the best warrant squad in the state of Maryland. I was picked for the best supervisor for child support in the state of Maryland. So that's one of the positive changes. Another positive change, I went down to narcotics my last 2 years. And we changed some stuff around. I don't want to get into everything, but we had a lot of positive changes in there. Them guys down there work hard, they're understaffed, and they still have the same amount of people that they had 12 years ago. Through the epidemic and everything else, that stuff needs to be changed. That's, if I get in, that's going to be a lot of positive. Our road patrol has never been fully staffed. We're going to staff that. Our narcotics unit needs staffed. Our CIB needs staffed. But we keep sending people to these extra divisions, which we really don't need right now. We need to get basic. The sheriff's office is your front line protection. They're the front row. That's where we need the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. Mr. McDowell?
Positive change. Well, one of the things I'm most proud of is when the opioid epidemic was kind of at its height, I contacted Ms. Candace D'Agostino, who at the time, and she still is, the president of the director of the Calvert Alliance Against Substance Abuse, and we talked on the phone, and we strategized, and we came together and we started to have meetings monthly of a multidisciplinary complexity with stakeholders in the community that could affect the drug problem, the opioid problem. At the time, this was the pill epidemic. And we called it PDAC, the Prescription Drug Abuse Abatement Council. And collectively, we have representatives from the pharmacies, the faith community, the Board of Education, the State's Attorney's Office, anybody who could bring resources to bear to make an impact on the opioid crisis. And we made some progress. We held several forums at the College of Southern Maryland, whom we partnered with, and we made differences in people's lives. And I just a week ago, I got a phone call from a gentleman who was an addict at the time. We intervened in his life through PDAC, and he called me to tell me that he was now married, that he had a child, that he's held a job, and he's on a career path for the last 7 years. And to me, that made it all worthwhile. That made all those meetings worthwhile. We got to one person. If we can get to one person at a time, we can get to all of them, and we can save lives. That's what I'm proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson?
I'm going to talk about the positive change that I've created in the Maryland Capitol Police Department. When I took that department over 10 years ago, it was a questionable department. There was a lot of naysay about the department and the professionalism of that department. So during my tenure at the department, I've made several positive changes there through my leadership. I've restructured and reorganized the department. I've added different ranks to the department so that it can be led in a proper direction. I implemented a K-9 program, bomb dogs. We do a lot of building security with where I'm at, so we now have four explosive dogs up there that assist us with our job and what we do. I've completed annual salary reviews for both police, security, and our police communication operators up there. Have been successful at that. I've been very successful at going in front of the legislature and changing laws with our department, adding jurisdiction and adding people to the department. I've changed the promotional process in the department, making it more fair and equitable to people. We've actually merged another major state law enforcement agency under the Maryland Capitol Police several years back. I'm proud of that, and you know what's being told and what's being said is anytime that you can go into a department as a chief or as a sheriff, as a leader of a department, and you can walk out of that department after you have been there and it's a better place than it was when you arrived, then that's the definition of positivity and change. So that's my answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Cox?
Yes, sir. I've been a SWAT officer my entire career since I was hired in just late 2004. And the SWAT world has really drastically changed as to what we can and cannot do. A positive change in that standpoint is researching and obtaining gear that's making our officer safety, and gear making the person during that search warrant, making them safer as well too. So making that positive change for them, and developing policy and stuff that's going to protect them from doing our job as well. I want to get to the schools, making a positive change in school, because that's kind of where my heart's at, is going into the schools and talking to the senior classes and really changing their mind and their perspective of what a law enforcement officer looks like and what he really does, because we all are human beings, and I think we need to be treated like one as well. And I do agree, we have a awesome place that we work at, the Calvert County Sheriff's Office, and I want to protect that. But we can do better. We can do better how we treat our officers and how we treat our people out there in the community. The relationships I want to get into. I've worked with every civilian there at the Sheriff's Office, and I really take it to heart as well, is building those relationships, really getting to know them, getting to know their family members, because there you gain trust with the community and trust with the people that you work for. And we go out there and we, you know, when we patrol, we put our lives on the line every day. So you want to have trust out there and build that moving forward here in the future. Another thing is humanitarian efforts. Me as a sheriff, I want to increase this as well. We do have a huge homeless population here in Calvert County. I don't know if you guys noticed it, or some people are blind to it, but we do. Now they're coming from all over Tennessee, West Virginia, and they're coming here for some reason. So humanitarian efforts, where I like to go there and check on them. We do random checks on them also too, but we really got to work with that, and we can do better as well. And also with domestic violence too, getting a safe place for somebody dealing with domestic violence as well, to where they can go to, which looks better than the option they do in Prince Frederick. So that's my goal as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. One last question. All right. This will be your final question on the panel. We're going to start with Mr. McDowell. What are you planning to do to stop the fentanyl train that is coming to this county and grow the narcotics unit?
To stop the fentanyl train. Well, growing the narcotics unit is a priority of mine as the next sheriff. The fentanyl train comes from New York to Baltimore to Annapolis to Calvert County. Strengthening partnerships with our allied agencies and the federal government, I think, is key. I believe that if we establish a network of allied agencies to stem that tide, to get the fentanyl before it makes it to Calvert County, would be the ideal goal. That takes work, that takes time, it takes money, but we can do that. You know, losing one life to heroin is one too many. Look at how many lives have been shattered in this community alone from the heroin deaths. You know, we can't throw enough resources at it. We don't. It's endless, the resources we have. I mean, the drugs have been plaguing this nation for decades. Calvert County's finally getting its piece of it, unfortunately. But again, strategic planning, coordinated analysis through our federal partners and our state and local partners, and a concerted effort to stop the stem, to put drug dealers in prison. If they sell fatal fentanyl and someone dies, then we put them in prison for homicide. We work with our state's attorney or our federal prosecutors in Greenbelt, and we put solid cases together. We put more people in our HIDTA task force, which is a joint task force, and we put more people in our narcotics unit. It's that simple. You need to throw resources at it, or you're not going to stem that tide. That's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Wilson.
Epidemic is a huge problem in the county, and it definitely comes down the pipeline from New York City to Baltimore through Annapolis and into Calvert County and down into St. Mary's County. Drug task force, putting people on the drug task force and working with other federal and state agencies and entities is a paramount thing on trying to curb the fentanyl problem. And to fund some of these things, it does cost money to add people onto these different forces, and it takes away from other areas of the department. But you can acquire grants. There's all kinds of grants out there that you can try to get a hold of through federal government, through state government, that would help pay for and offset some of the costs of putting people in these additional units. Working with the state's attorney's office and the local prosecutors is huge in cases like this. Some of the reasons they have some of these huge problems up in the city is because of the state's attorney's office and the way they're not prosecuting cases up here. So working down here with Bob Harvey and whoever's in the state's attorney's office to prosecute these cases, hold these folks accountable, and put these people in jail where they belong, the dealers, is huge. And I think the last part of that is working with your EMS and local hospitals as well to create education. You know, you can talk to these folks about drugs and what they do to people and how it affects different families. So it's a combination of all these things that would help curb the fentanyl issue down here in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Cox.
Yes, sir. A very big issue, and I think all of us touched on this from the beginning, but I think it needs to start from our youth. What happened to DARE, right? DARE's not in a public school system, so we start from the lower age and educate not only our youth, but we educate our parents as well. And I thought about, we do need to bring in some addicts that are now recovered and vetted, and come in and tell their situation or their stories and how it destroyed their life and how they recovered from it. And if the younger generation, high school level, sees that, maybe that can deter them from doing that type of drug. But the current way we're doing business is not working. I think we're not going to wrest our way out of this thing. And like the rest of them, the candidates said too, we're going to have to hit the treatment options that we have available. 20 fatals and 8 this year, so 20, and we're up to 8 this year. That's way too many. When I was in investigations, I had parents of dead folks that overdosed on heroin, and it's just, I mean, they're crying in my office, and it's terrible. And we have to do better with this. What I want to do is attack this at a multifaceted approach. Community partners are coming together with the Sheriff's Office to provide a united front, and I think that's going to be very important. And we do need to increase our drug unit, and we need to put them in the right spots. We have one officer in the HIDTA with the feds, and maybe we can increase that as well to create that task force to help battle the situation that we're dealing with. My plan for this issue is going to be called the All-In Plan, and I can detail it on my website, and you can go ahead and you can check it out. So it's going to be called the All-In Program, which will help fight the opioid situation that we're dealing with today. Like I said, get in there. We got to educate our kids. We got to educate our adults. And we had 306 inmates when I started here. Now we're up to about 100. So we're, like they said, we're not putting them in jail, and they got to be accountable. Home detention and pretrial release is the options right now. So we have to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mr. Contra?
The last 2 years of my career, I was assigned to narcotics. And if we could get rid of Baltimore and we could get rid of Anne Arundel, that would be the perfect thing. We would follow people to Annapolis. They'd buy their drugs. And down here, what happens down here is they'll get 10 people together, and they'll give one person the money, and we'll follow them to Annapolis. We'll follow them to Baltimore. As we come back down, get back in the county, we stop them. on a traffic violation. And then we get the dog. But they're not really dealers, they're users. And the users, what we need is rehab for them. If you put them through rehab and it don't work, well, it's on them. That's our biggest pipeline. And to follow somebody up to Annapolis or follow somebody up to Baltimore and have somebody ready here, you need 7, 8 people to follow them up, especially when you hit a light. You know, you got to have cars in front, cars in back, and so forth. But our biggest problem coming up now, the fentanyl's starting to leave us a little bit. The crack is coming back hard. We've locked up, we had a guy in White Sands, we got a kilo of cocaine in Calvert County. We locked another guy in Lusby. He had over a half an ounce of cocaine and a bunch of pills. So as you can see, even see with the numbers of the deaths and overdose, they're starting to come down. But the crack and marijuana is going up, which marijuana is probably going to be legal here in the next year or so. But when you have a lot of users, that's where you have thefts. That's where you have domestic violence. That's where people hijack cars. That's what we got to concentrate. We do have some dealers here, but when we catch them, we have to make sure they go to jail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Contra. That concludes our questioning tonight. Another round of applause for our candidates, please. Great answers tonight, gentlemen. Great answers. I'll be handing it over to Mr. McQueen.
Yeah, I want to thank John for moderating tonight.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
So prior to today, we had a lot more questions. We're going to move them on to the next, but one question came up, and all four have agreed that we are going to have. This has been a question answer forum, but we're going to have an interactive forum where you'll be able to talk and ask questions, and when they say something, answer or ask back another question. So we have some hot topics that we did not present tonight, and those are the topics that I will be passing to them so that they understand that this is going to be brought up in that situation. So just want to let you all know that we will have another one added. We've got another one happening in Huntingtown. It'll be the similar forum, but this new forum will be set up between now and the 7th of July. And I'll be letting you all know through the website, and everybody will be able to pass it through Facebook. Okay, now thank everybody. We have time to mingle, talk with the sheriffs, catch up with them. And I appreciate all of you here. We have a great crowd, and I appreciate the Calvert Media Group once again videoing this and creating it so we can have it online so everybody can go back and see it. Thank you. Great night. Thank you.
Good job, boys.
You've done well, dude. You know that?
Yeah.
This is not to be discussed outside of
You gonna kill us if we do?
It's not a
Make
good
them
thing.
sign a statement and swear.
It's not a good thing.
Are you gonna get the Convention of States to come after?